Hey, everybody, and welcome to the podcast formerly known as We Watch TV. We're rebranding. We're going to just call ourselves Sodies from now on.
No, it's called Pop.
That doesn't go as well. I'm sure we can't just call our podcast Pop. Hey, this is episode 82 of the podcast. We are still a primarily TV-focused podcast. But last week, we tasted a dirty soda on air, and everybody seemed to really enjoy that. So,
including us. It wasn't that bad.
It was unfortunately not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And so we have another pop soda, depending on where you are listening from, in front of us today. We are going to be sampling live on the air for the first time Coca-Cola Zero Oreo. Hope's already got hers opened up. Go for it.
Cheers.
Beers and Mountaineers. I mean, that doesn't give me a lot of. I'm going to open mine now. Try and get the.
It does taste. It tastes like Oreo, kind of.
See, now I've heard a lot of people online say this is really good.
Me too.
Okay, so
give me the dirty soda instead.
That you just did. So let me ask. So before I take my drink, what's my reaction going to be?
You're an enigma. I don't know. It depends on what kind of mood you're in, I guess. I'm going to tell you how I would describe it after you finish it.
No.
You know what it tastes like?
I'm not interested in that.
It tastes like if you were a freak that didn't eat your Oreos with milk, or you have dairy problems like myself, so you decided to have a couple double stuffed Oreos or regular, and then took a drink of like regular pop, and then you burped it back up. It tastes like what the burp tastes like. You know what I mean? Where sometimes you burp and you
Oreo
can kind of
burps,
taste your meal again.
Yeah.
It tastes like an Oreo burp. Like if I ate some Oreos and I had a Diet Coke or a Coke Zero, and then 15 minutes later I burped it back up. That's what the taste.
I'm going in
my
for
mouth.
a second sip.
I'll take a second sip too. It does have an authentic Oreo flavor.
Yeah, but I don't like it. I don't think that it needed. I think it's
it's gross.
It's too Oreo.
No, my second sip, I don't like it.
Oh, it's too much Oreo.
You know what, though? I think this might actually go well with the dirty soda because of the Oreo flavor. Like, put some sweet cream in there. Maybe. That
might help.
You guys that said you really liked it,
no.
What else do you like? Candy corn? What's wrong with you? Ew. I'm going to take one more sip just to make sure.
Yeah, I don't.
It kind of starts off with an aftertaste.
Yeah, and it just keeps going.
It tastes like old burped up Oreos.
I don't like it. I'm not here for this.
Do you like circus peanuts? That's another gross candy.
What's circus peanuts?
Those orange, big peanut things
that
old people
yeah.
like.
Ugh.
Yeah. If you're gonna have old people candy, those little strawberries that appear in old ladies' coat pockets at some point in lives that are chewy.
Yeah, give me those.
Those are good. Make a strawberry candied flavored Coke. So now I gotta ask you, Daniel. Apparently they have Coke flavored Oreos. Are we gonna try those or not? What do you think?
I'm trying to imagine in my mind what that's supposed to do.
Probably the same thing, burped up Oreos.
Because this tastes like Coke with Oreos. So is that supposed to taste like Oreos with Coke?
All right, hit me with the quote from Jurassic Park with Jeff Goldblum, because I think that applies.
The scientists, they were so preoccupied with whether they could, they never stopped to think about whether they should.
And that's our review. Do you want to actually talk about TV, though?
No, not really. So, hey, before we get started here, we did want to remind everybody we are a spoiler podcast, and so we're trying to be better about telling everybody up front. We're going to talk about spoilers, but we do put little chapter markers down in the bottom, so if you go down there and you see a show you don't want to hear about because you're not trying to hear it, just click the little link to the next one, and you'll go on to the next topic.
Yes, we know there's some new people that have showed up to listen, so good reminder. That being said, if you don't really care about the show that we are spoiling, but you just like to hear us say weird, strange, odd things, just keep on trucking, I guess.
I just want you to stop saying odd stuff.
I know a lot of people, not a lot, maybe 3 of you. A lot. 3 is a lot. 3 is a few. So a few of you told me that you guys hadn't watched Suits yet, but you enjoyed hearing our take on Suits. You feel like you've seen the series. I feel like, what is it, the episode of Parks and Rec where Andy Dwyer, like the cable's out during the debate. So Andy acts out Babe, and what Rocky movie does he? Not Rocky, another Sylvester Stallone movie.
Roadhouse.
But he also does Babe, and Donna's like, I feel like I was just there, like I just saw it.
Where does a few turn into several?
See, a few to me is 3, and then a few more than that would be like 4. So more than a few. But I feel like several is about that 5, 6, 7 zone.
So I always think
and
7.
And then a lot is like 10.
I always think like a couple is 2. A few.
A couple 2, yes.
A few is 3 to 6. And then several starts at 7. That's for me, in my mind, that's where it goes.
You also listen to TV like an insane person, not on a multiple of 5, like the way you're supposed to. You should only have your TV volume on a multiple of 5. And I have to correct you all the time because it drives me nuts.
And she's telling me I'm the weird one. Just want to make sure everybody's clear on that she's saying I'm the weird one.
Hey, but you know what's also weird? Before we get into TV, I would be remiss not to remind everybody on the day of this recording, September 23rd, that the Pittsburgh Steelers are still currently in first place in the AFC North. Isn't that cool?
It's something.
I think the Bengals are playing on Monday Night Football, right?
That's correct, yes.
And then the Ravens, they finally won.
The Ravens finally won.
Cowboys.
The Browns lost. Even if the Bengals win, that's not going to – they're have they won that this season?
I don't think so. The Bengals notoriously start slow, though.
Uh-huh.
They do.
Okay.
I do like Joey B.
Not with that hair, though.
No, he's starting to look really good again.
Hey, everybody. So listen, if you are listening to this podcast, but you have not gone into your favorite podcast listening app of choice and click that little follow button, you should do that. It's like a really great free perk that all those podcast apps give. They'll just tell you, hey, there's a new episode of the podcast available. So again, Spotify, Apple, and like 50 other ones that I'm not going to sit here and name. If you're listening from those, go in, take the time. Click follow so that we know that you're here and you're listening. And with that said, well, that was a long pause, but Hope had to stop and cough the Oreo Coca-Cola Zero out of her throat. So
the flavor just lingers.
It's quite pungent. Hey, we got a fan mail.
To another fan, not to us.
Yeah, they're not actually asking us a question.
To talk to
You're
yourselves.
talking to each other. So we got a fan mail. Glen Mills, Pennsylvania, fan mailed in and said, actually, mail for your friend in Ohio. I believe this is pointed at Hannah. Can you ask Hannah if she watched Resident Alien and what she thought of it? Season 4 is coming out soon. I guess we'll just get out of the way and let Hannah and our friend from General Mills, Pennsylvania, just do the next episode of the podcast. Because it seems like we've got questions going back and forth.
Yeah.
I've never heard of Resident Alien.
I think I have, but I don't know what it's. I'm assuming it's about an alien. But is it about an illegal alien or like
an alien? Yeah, I don't know.
Do you remember that show on Nickelodeon? And it was like Alan Strange, I think was his name. It was during that Alex Mack time slot. It was another show, and it was this boy that was like an alien.
No.
What did you watch on TV when you were younger?
Star Trek.
Do you know that Nickelodeon had like a Star Trek like show?
What?
At one point, yes, they did. I don't remember what it was called, but it was cool.
I don't believe you.
No, I will look it up.
Oh, I don't believe. I totally believe you'll look it up. I just don't believe you that there was a Star Trek, Trek-like show.
It was like
on
they
Nickelodeon.
were in space or something.
Well, okay, just because it's in space doesn't make it a Star Trek-like show.
They were like working.
Would
in
you
space.
say Star Wars and Star Trek are similar?
I would say like that. No, I wouldn't say those two are similar unless J.J. Abrams is doing it. But you want to know what is actually similar to Star Trek? Xenon, girl of the 21st century. Her parents are military, which is sort of like what
I'm
going to
stop you right there. Star Trek takes place in the 23rd and 24th century.
Yes, but Xenon is similar. They wear similar outfits like that they wear on Star Trek. You've seen a little bit of Xenon, right?
No.
I know your sister watched Xenon.
Good for her.
You know that people
That's
like
something
me,
you guys have in common. Crap Disney Channel
No.
television.
Icon, legendary. You do know that I have like zoom, 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 make my heart go boom, boom on my phone. It comes up with my running Spotify
That is
playlist.
not the brag that you think it is.
I think it is. But you know what song I really like right now?
Oh, I know. Go
And
for
I've been
it.
singing it all weekend. Down, 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 down the witches, down, 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 down the witches road. Instant certified banger.
It was good.
So with that, shall we get into Agatha?
Yeah, so Agatha, or Agatha All Along, I guess is the technical title of the show.
It was Agatha.
First
all
2 episodes,
along.
Disney Plus. I kind of see this almost as like season 2 of WandaVision. Kind of a weird way.
A different take.
Yeah.
I love it so far. Love it. Love it. It is coming out the perfect time of year
Yes.
because it gets that little spooky vibes. And I know the finale is supposed to air on Halloween, October 31st. I'm pretty sure that's what somebody said. So I don't know. They kept changing what day. We didn't know what, like, wasn't it really supposed to air one day and then they pushed it?
I don't know anymore. I don't know when stuff comes out anymore. To be
I'm
honest.
pretty sure I read that if it's not the 31st, it's at least that week of Halloween. So I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
I loved WandaVision. It's still one of my... I'd still put definitely Loki as my number 1, but I would probably put WandaVision as my number 2, like Marvel, Disney Plus shows. And this is just... It's just giving. I love... Obviously, why is her name... Why am I blanking on her name? Who plays Agatha? Catherine Hahn.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And I love her. I love the cast. Aubrey Plaza's in it. Patti LuPone is in it. You didn't know who Patti LuPone was.
Yeah, you had to explain that to me.
Which I think
because
is insane.
I am uncultured.
She is the legend, the icon, the moment. And I remember watching like a trailer for WandaVision. I'm like, that looks like Patti LuPone. And then I'll be honest with you guys, I listened to the Disney Parks updates at D23, but because it was right during the Olympics and I love the Olympics, I didn't really watch a lot of the coverage. So I think they already sang that song, or maybe if they...
Oh, did they?
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe it was never actually released so everybody could see it, or it was, and I just, again, wasn't paying attention. But, like, I saw her show up in the episode, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that actually is Patti LuPone. Because I had seen a brief preview where it looked like her. But I was like, why would Patti LuPone do a Marvel show? And she herself, we just watched an interview with her, and she's like, yeah, I've never seen any Marvel movies. Except she did watch WandaVision, the season 3
You know,
times.
I think a lot more people... I think a lot of people get, like... really up in arms about that stuff, but I'm going to venture a guess that a lot of actors do not watch like 99% of what's out there.
She watched WandaVision so she could prepare.
To kind of prepare, but like...
She's Patti LuPone. She can do whatever she wants, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah, like, I don't blame them. Like, they come in, they do the role. It's their job. It's a day job. It's a different kind of day job.
What does Zendaya say? Well, I think it's our jobs.
Yeah, it's a different kind of day job than everybody else has, but at the end of the day, like, I think sometimes when you go to the Comic Cons or you see interviews on TV and people ask these, like, in-depth questions about the subject matter, that's not what... Most of these actors are not there for that.
Well, a lot of, like, the rewatch podcasts, they're watching those shows even though they were in the shows for the first time. I don't think I'd want to watch myself on TV. I think that'd be weird. I'd be very critical.
Yeah, I'll be honest, like, this podcast, it took me a long time to be able to sit and edit this thing after, we record it and then we edit it, to be able to just listen to it objectively without, like, cringing every time I speak. So I can imagine what it would be like seeing yourself on screen and doing that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think it would be really hard.
Meanwhile, I'm like the Naja doll. I'll forget what I said when we're listening back. Naja doll, go watch What We Do in the Shadows. And she got the little Naja doll, and she'll like, she says something. And then Naja, like, I agree with that. But, like, I'll forget what I said something. I'll be like, no, I should have said XYZ, and then I do say it. It's like
yeah, I don't listen to this podcast very much outside of what the work I have to put in on it. But you do, and so occasionally we'll be like in the car and you'll turn it on, and folks, I'm telling you seriously, she'll just be sitting there talking to herself, like a past version of herself. She'll be like, oh, she's got a great point there, or blah blah blah, and it's like, you recorded it, and
we wonder why I like spooky shows and weirdness like Agatha. I thought the first episode, this is where we're going to get into some spoilers, so go to the next chapter if you don't want to stick around for that. I thought the first episode was great because we all had like the different, in WandaVision, if you guys watched that, we all had, like Wanda, like sitcom level Wanda, like from like the 40s or the 50s. So this is Westview Agatha, and she is envisioning herself as like a true crime kind of true detective. I got Sandra Bullock, Miss Congeniality cop vibes from the way she had her hair and kind of her attitude. And it opens with them finding a body, and we definitely know like the body was Wanda. But then it kind of unravels. You realize that like Agatha's just been crazy. That's her personality of the week, and they're like, "Oh, you've been in a really big like true crime thing." So along the way, Aubrey Plaza's character shows up, who's clearly a past witch, possibly lover. Lover.
There's no question. There's no question.
Absolutely, and
I'm here for it.
Yeah, I'm
every
here for it too.
Single second of it.
I feel like while we've had hot people in Marvel movies, Marvel is missing some of like the sexy. That scene where Aubrey Plaza licked Agatha's hand, that was sexy.
Yes.
And so her character shows up and is like, she's appearing as kind of like another cop or detective or something in this, like, because Agatha's still under the spell.
Yeah.
She's still, because when you leave WandaVision, basically Wanda curses Agatha to live as like the nosy neighbor, but I guess she's just evolved and taken on different personalities. And then this strange boy who they called the Teen shows up, and you think Agatha's gonna like apprehend him, take him to jail, but then they start. I feel like both them and Aubrey Plaza kind of together were working to get her out of that spell. I'm a little fuzzy on that.
Certainly Aubrey Plaza's character knows that she's under a spell and she's trying to break her out of that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the kids.
Was coincidence.
Yeah, what the kids' play is here, but he certainly was. We find out later in the second episode, like he certainly knows about witches and knows about the road that they're trying to travel. So I wonder if I don't know that they were working together. Of course, that could be a stinger we find out later. Yeah. But he certainly was trying maybe to break her out of something as well.
Trying to find Agatha. So they eventually break her out of this spell, and she comes like storming out of her house. Like, how many years has it been? I think they said it's been like 3 years since the events of WandaVision, and that's where she meets the one neighbor who we saw in WandaVision. Yep. He's like, this week it was is true detective, true crime, and I loved when she's in her house and she's still kind of coming to the reality, like, oh my gosh, I've been trapped in this world. Look what Wanda did to me. And you see her sitting down because the opening shot was her driving a car. Using air quotes. Yeah. And she's like, yeah, okay, this isn't a car. Got it. And it was just like, that's how like crazy she is. Yeah. And I guess I didn't realize, I don't know about you, that we'd be seeing so many like side characters from WandaVision. Like,
yeah, they brought a lot of people back.
Like a lot of people. I don't remember all their names, but I'm like, oh, that was kind of the mean neighbor. The one guy that worked at like the factory with Vision, or I don't know, whatever he worked for, his company. He was there. The guy that she was envisioning as the police chief was there. So, and then of course, Kitty, I don't know what's her name in the show?
I don't know.
We just call her Kitty Foreman. She's there, and she seems like she's going to play a pretty big role.
Yeah, I feel like we're kind of out of Westview after the first 2 episodes, and she's still with the group, so I think she's going to be there for a while. I did see something interesting on TV, or on TikTok, an interesting theory.
Yes.
And I want to make sure if this is true, everybody, this is super spoilers for the show.
Don't ruin it for me.
You don't want me to tell you?
What is it?
You never see her and Aubrey Plaza's character on scene at the same time.
That's true, because Aubrey Plaza's character is one of the witches trying to get in the house when they're singing, and she's down.
Yeah.
No, see, I just want her to. I was just hoping. I don't want that to be true, because I just feel like she was wanting a girls' night, and they started singing the Witches Road song, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna vibe with this," and I hope somehow she doesn't get killed.
I don't think she'll be killed, but I think there is a chance that she might be Aubrey Plaza, like in disguise.
If that happens and that turns out to be true, just like when you accidentally told me the entire plot of Rise of Skywalker, and then I looked at you partway through the movie and you were like, I thought it was a joke. I'm gonna make you drink a whole entire one of these, not dirty sodas. This Oreo Coke Zero. By the way, guys, still bad taste in my mouth right now.
To be fair, the plot that I gave you for episode 9 seemed so infeasible that it just had to be fake, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, back to Agatha. I feel like since we got both episodes are kind of blending together for me.
Yeah.
But once she kind of gets her memories back, it's on. So we got to recruit. We got a new coven.
Yeah.
And that's where we see Patti LuPone as one of the witches. And you know why that sounds so good, right? The people that wrote like the music from Frozen, which regardless what you think of the movie, Frozen, certified bangers. Come on.
Just let it go.
Let it go. They did the music for this. Do you think we're going to get more music in Agatha? I certainly hope
it
so.
certainly seems sing-songy, so I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, to everybody, well, which is Daniel and Marvin, that's been around me over the weekend, that's all I've been singing. It's just the same part of the Witches Road song.
Now that I know who Patti LuPone is,
you love her,
for the
right?
whole 5 seconds that I've known,
Yes.
do you bring her on just for one song?
No.
Okay.
I think she's amazing. You like her now, though, right?
Yeah.
I aspire to just have Patti LuPone energy in life because she's so fun. Now, also possible spoilery, we know that Agatha, and this is true in the comics, she has a son named Nicholas Scratch. I believe we got to see a version of Nicholas Scratch in that Sabrina show that we watched
Yes.
on Netflix because that's what one of his names was. So and we see like some plaques that says Nicholas Scratch on it. That being said, I'm with the other theory that the teen, I don't think he's Nicholas Scratch. I think he might know Nicholas Scratch. I think that somehow some magic happened and that, in fact, is Billy Maximoff. What do you think? Wanda's son.
I'm 100% with you there. I
would rather it be Billy, too.
Yes, I would rather it be that. And that leads me to my question for you, which is percentage chance Wanda shows up in this episode, in this show, by the end.
By the end? Very high. I'm going with like a 92%.
Put a percentage on it.
92%.
I'm going 100.
Yeah, see, I'm being cautiously optimistic because, listen to me. This is why. Look at my shirt right now, Daniel. What does my shirt say? It says
Believe, yeah.
What did they say on Ted Lasso? Hope hurts. I love Wanda so much, and I was so heartbroken when they were like, this is the last of Wanda. What was it, in the Doctor Strange movie? Wanda is like my favorite like female Marvel character, probably I'd say Loki. I go Loki, Bucky Barnes, Wanda. They're my top 3. Like I like all the gray area characters. Thank you. And then Captain America number 4. So I want to see her back so bad, but I've got to do the 92% to prepare myself for the smidge of disappointment that they might not show her. But I think it's looking pretty good that we're going to see her.
I don't think there's any chance she doesn't show up. Speaking of Bucky Barnes, by the way, did you see that the Thunderbolts trailer dropped today?
I did not.
We'll have to watch that after
that
we're
must
done.
be why TikTok was showing me a lot of Bucky Barnes edits to like Sabrina Carpenter songs, which I did linger on, I'll say. I did linger on it.
You lingered, okay.
I love me some Bucky Barnes. But yeah, I really like Agatha. I think it's great so far. It's the perfect show for, like I said, for this time of year. I almost wish they had given me the whole season at once, but it's something definitely to look forward to. I think it's going to be funny. I think it's going to be sexy, like we said. And I think it's like you said, it's going to have that WandaVision weirdness vibe, but kind of a different spin.
Yeah. And folks, I would savor this one. I don't think there are any more Marvel shows that we are aware of in production at the moment. And I know that with things going on over at Marvel and Disney right now, they've kind of pumped the brakes a little bit for better or for worse. And that's a conversation for a whole other episode of the podcast. This might be the last Marvel show we get for a while.
That being said, I hope that we do get a season 2 of this and that haters don't go the way of the Acolyte.
Yeah.
What did I see? Some comment, and I'm like, that's exactly right. We watched men get all excited over the summer for Deadpool with, shirtless Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds, and yet people are like, oh my gosh, with like a possible Agatha.
Ladies can't kiss other ladies. Oh, my stars.
And it's like, just let people enjoy things.
Yeah. Speaking of enjoying things, or not, we finished Umbrella Academy.
Finally.
Season 4. We're done.
Slogged through it.
R.I.P. Umbrella Academy. It was weird, and it was good.
It was the best of times and the worst
and
of
it was
times.
the worst, and it was bad. But we're done with it. So, we only had to talk about like 2 episodes this episode, so let's just jump right into it. Like, what'd you think? Finale. Series finale.
I would have preferred that they ended it another way. I can see why they ended it the way they did. Apparently not. I haven't done a deep dive into this. apparently there was another like script plan, but they couldn't get it to work. Remember how like Luther had like a wife, Sloane,
Yeah.
and just we're supposed to pretend she doesn't exist in this?
Well, she died last season.
Did she really?
Yeah, in the
Okay,
whole
well,
like
everybody
universe.
was
When that
confused.
universe ended
Yeah.
last season, she got like destroyed.
Supposedly there were some plans for her and for Ray, which they wrote off Ray, Allison's husband, in
Yeah,
like
without even seeing him.
like a sentence basically. So I don't know. I haven't looked into that enough. I fully intend to do a deep dive when I have the energy on Reddit, as one does. I feel like the ending of the sacrifice themselves to reset the timeline is just so predictable. It's just, I feel like a lot of shows like this, that's how, like, let's make the big sacrifice, let everybody die at the end. And everybody thinks it's such a creative way to end it when I don't think so, because I've seen similar versions of this ending happen on many different types of shows. However, I'm a sucker for music. And the first episode that really drew me in, which I think it was the very first episode of The Umbrella Academy, the moment I knew I was going to like the show was when they all danced to I Think We're Alone Now. And I looked at you at one point, and you had already seen, you knew that they were going to play that.
Yes, I
didn't.
did.
I knew that they all died at the end, and I knew that they turned into like flowers or whatever. But like I didn't know that I didn't watch that actual scene. I just seen like a picture of it and like text, and I was like, they all die at the end, don't they? But I looked at you, and I'm like, they better hit me in this final episode somewhere with a verse of I Think We're Alone Now, and that's kind of how they did that. Now, before you give your thoughts, I have to say a few more things. Just some complaints. Okay.
Preach, Queen.
Time travel. So basically, the way it ends is in order. We find out from 5 that it's going to be an endless loop. They're always going to have apocalyptic situations. It's never going to go away unless the cleanse actually takes place. So we have Ben and Jennifer. They've joined in more ways than one. They're like the cleanse now, and they're like, so we're going to have to just be absorbed in it. We'll cease to exist. No one will have memories of us. All the timelines are gone. Okay. But then we've got Lila and Diego's family and Allison's daughter, and they're like, well, you know what? We're going to get you guys out of here. We want you guys to remember us. And Lila takes them to the subway that she and 5 were stuck on for 7 years, but it was only like a few hours regular time. I'll get into the Lila 5 thing in a second as well. Don't you worry.
Oh, she will.
Don't you worry. So they take them down there, and Lila puts them on the subway, and then she goes back because she's gonna like. She
pulls a Bruce Willis from Armageddon.
Yeah, that's what I did. I or not?
You said it right while the show was going on.
I literally said, I was like, oh my gosh, they just did Armageddon. Bruce Willis. She shut him in the subway because ultimately it wasn't gonna work if Lila went. It had to be all of them that had that like marigold stuff in them. So my question is, how did, like, all the timelines were disappearing? Did they just, was there, I feel like I'm missing context. It's something in 5's journal that he found down there say, like, hey, if you take this subway, it will get you to the appropriate timeline. There's got to be something we're missing, or it's just bad writing.
I'm going to go with option 2 on that one, because even they all seemed like I think that I seem to remember there was a moment where 5 was like asked, like, is this going to work? And he's like, I don't really know if they're going to make it or not.
Yeah.
But maybe it was just like, hey, that's the best shot for them.
Yeah.
Is how you could explain it, is like, listen, they either stay here and 100% die, or they get on the train and maybe they die, but maybe they don't.
And we're assuming, because Claire, Allison's daughter, said she didn't want to forget that her mom existed. So we're assuming that all of them still have the memories. Then they're the only
Which really
ones,
doesn't make any sense.
Which doesn't make sense. At least Claire's not alone. That was one of my concerns. I'm like, so Ray's gone. Allison's going to die. Is Claire just going to be all alone? So I'm glad that she has Lila and Diego's family. But yeah. Are we thinking bad writing?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, and something else to point out when it comes to bad writing and forgetting things. I thought I was like crazy and misremembering Luther. I was like, okay, I guess part of his powers always was the strength to look like a gorilla. Then I go to the comments, because I did do a little bit of, clicking around while I was done with the episode to see what other people thought. Most people are like us. Yeah. And people are like, did the writers just forget that Luther, like, that was an experiment gone bad? And I'm like, so I did remember that right. And the only thing I feel like, if I'm a writer of the show, I'd be like, well, everybody's powers came back a little differently. So maybe that's a way they could kind of write that one off.
Well, more importantly, it was for the goofs.
Yeah.
Like, he had to have the hairy legs in the back for the goofs, because they had him like with his pants off for an episode and a half.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, yeah. I feel like I did like that musical moment at the end, though. Like you said, that was a nostalgia bit for me. I kind of figured it out that Hargreaves' wife, that the whole reason why he was doing any of this with these kids was to bring her back anyway, and their world had been destroyed. And I didn't think she had that she was Arya Stark with the faceless man and the masks going about when we find out she's like skinning people. I still can't figure out, because she wanted the cleanse to happen, why she killed one of the Jeans, or she killed both of them, but then she killed Megan Mullally's character, like that Jean, with the J in the last scene. It was just basically because Jean was getting on her nerves.
Yeah.
She's like, enough, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Because she wasn't trying to stop the cleanse. She still wanted the cleanse to happen. It was more like she just wanted her to stop popping off.
Here's what I will say.
I feel like we could have had more time.
This season of Umbrella Academy, I think for me, brings full circle my criticisms of the entirety of this series, which is I've always enjoyed it. I've always had a good time, but it always felt like they left something on the table.
Chaotic mess.
They had some really fun ideas, and they just didn't quite get them across the finish line. Because I'll be honest, when Five saw himself in the subway and followed him down to that diner and sees all the other fives down there, I'm getting excited because I'm like,
cool scene.
This is cool. And then it's over in 5 seconds, and we're never going to go back to it.
We did get something from that, though. We did, because we found out one season that Five created I about said the TVA, wrong show.
Basically.
Yeah, their version of the TVA. And he's like, yeah, that's why we could, but nothing really came of it, at least from I remember. He's like, that's why we always try, they knew about, all the versions knew that the apocalypse was just always going to happen, and he was trying to find a way to stop it. And he's like, that's why we created this. So we did get some answers from that.
Yeah, but it's just still, it's like that is an idea that could have used further exploring.
Yes.
And that's it. We're not going to get it explored anymore. And that's every season has had those little pieces to it that it's like, if you guys could have gone just a little bit farther down this road. And of course, like objectively speaking, I have to say this. Five's the most interesting character. For me.
Yeah, kind of.
For me, Five is the most interesting character. I'm not saying he's the best character. He's the most interesting character of the series. That. And so whenever he's doing stuff, I'm more interested. And it's just, I also don't know why they only went with 6 episodes. They could have.
I felt like we needed a couple more.
Some of the context season. I feel like we're missing is because they only had 6 episodes.
Yeah, we could have had more time. Like the second to last episode, it felt like they were shoehorning a lot of stuff in there.
Big time.
You and I were like, wow, this feels very disjointed, because it was. And also in the second to last episode, my next, what the heck was that? I don't understand why they made Five and Lila romantic. And it kind of got on my nerves. I will say I do think they had good chemistry. They did.
Sure,
Still
absolutely.
a little weird since the actress is so much older than he is. And from what I've read, they wanted to do something with them romantically in an earlier season, but they wanted to wait for the actor who plays Five to age up a little bit.
And that's your answer to why they stuff it into this last season. Is that some writer, some showrunner really wanted that storyline to play through, and this was their last chance to get it.
They do have a shared connection because they both spent a lot of time, because Kate Walsh's character, remember, she technically raised Lila.
Yes.
At that one point. So they sort of had familiarities with that world, and they have some similar traumas. But why did they have to make it romantic? I don't know. I guess maybe when they had to get Five stuck back in time, and maybe they didn't want him stuck alone for 7 years. And they do have good chemistry. It's just the whole romantic thing. And I do really like Diego and Lila. They were a big ship of that show for me. And I felt like they had to, and I hate when shows do this. If you're going to pair somebody else off, fine. You don't have to downgrade the other character.
Right.
Diego's always had some moody issues, a little arrogance, but maybe he wasn't always the brightest tool in the shed, or the sharpest tool in the shed. I can't even say the phrase right. The brightest crown in the box. Sharpest. This is why I like Diego. Thank you. But they really, really dumbed him down this season, and I felt like they did that to prop up this Five and Lila thing that they had going on, and that gets on my nerves, because while she ultimately, you can she does choose Diego. At one point, Five keeps it a secret from her that he found a way back, and for 5 months while they're down there, And she ultimately chooses to go back because she has children with Diego. But when Diego asks Five, like them, like Lila, like if she loves Five, like she doesn't really say yes or no. And I think and I feel like you can, to me as a viewer, I interpreted that she did fall in love with him.
Yeah, same. I got that same vibe.
I'm not saying that she doesn't love Diego anymore, but I feel like she had ended up getting trauma bonded for sure. Even more than they were. So maybe if we had more time or another season coming, and I felt like things weren't really resolved well between Five and Diego, which doesn't set right with me, and that kind of got on my nerves. Like, obviously, all the siblings in the Umbrella Academy kind of have their issues with each other and argue, but at the end of the day, they all have each other's backs, and I like that last season where Klaus is like, I love you guys, but you're all like a-holes or whatever he says, and it was just a perfect way to kind of send off this group of crazy, mismatched siblings. It just bugged me that we didn't have a lot of resolution on that.
That's the thing, I think, that disappoints me the most about this season, because I will say that this show, over the course of its 4 seasons, has had great moments. It's had moments. I've always liked the characters.
Same.
They're great. They're really good characters. The actors
They're very authentic and
authentic. The actors do a really great job of bringing them to the screen. Okay, I'm going to say this in that I don't like all the characters, but I like all the characters. They seem like real characters, flaws and all. And this season just did not give enough time for all of them to have their resolutions, particularly knowing that it was the final season. Yeah. It's the last time we're ever going to see them. To fully, I think, give each of them the time to breathe that they needed so that they could wrap their arcs up. And like you said, there's just some stuff sitting out there that was not resolved the way I think it could have been with 2 more episodes.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. At least 2 more episodes, I think, could have sewed it up a little better, even if they went with the ending that I didn't necessarily like. Because I don't know if you've seen a lot of shows that I've watched that deal with similar themes. That's just, I feel like it's the easy way to end it. But it's just like How I Met Your Mother. They wanted to say that they had like a creative ending when they didn't. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen that show. The guy gets the girl in the end. Like Ted and Robin end up together. So it's like every other cookie cutter show like that I've ever seen. Like, stop acting like it's creative.
Umbrella Academy, spoiler alert, the heroes sacrifice themselves to save the day.
Yeah.
It's not that deep.
Gosh, I still get so heated when I talk about How I Met Your Mother. I could just keep going all day.
I'm trying to stop you. I'm waving my hands over here like, don't dive into that pool.
Yeah, you don't want to go there. But yeah, I've seen so many shows that they make the sacrifice. So yeah. It's not a flex.
No.
Like, I would have rather them found a loophole in Five's journal and been like, wait a minute, we can have the cleanse happen, but we can still come back. People can still remember us, or something. It's just something different. I'm not saying I need a happy, joyous ending, but I felt like it was, we got to end the show. This is the best way to end it. And now we've shut it down on if we're going to do like any sequels or anything like that. But I'm with you. I love all the characters. I've really liked even though I always forget what happens in the previous season. Maybe that's we're going meta now, and I'll just forget. Eventually, I'll forget this show exists. Maybe.
Oh, for sure.
Just like we're forgetting
no question.
them. But good musical moments. I'm trying to think. Is there anything else that really stood out for you in this season in particular?
I feel like they started. They started strong with.
It was a good
with Ron and Tammy too, because that's what I'm going to call them. And then they kind of
those were themselves.
To me, those were 2 really good characters, and they kind of like lost the plot towards the end on them. Like, they could have been a better villain, I think, than they turned out to be.
At least we got a line dance.
Sure.
With them, that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
that was pretty neat.
I feel like the Hargraves wrap up wasn't as satisfying as I thought it could be. Like, it was very weak.
Am I supposed to feel happy for him?
Yeah.
Now, I did think it was cool that they brought in old, people like Kate Walsh's character comes
At
back.
that end montage.
And then when I rewatched the end montage a couple times, and I had completely forgotten about the one little woman that was hooking up with the other guy that worked for their version of the time thing.
Yeah.
She worked at a donut shop or the coffee shop or something. And I didn't even realize that was those 2. And then the mom that turned into the robot mom with the stroller, that was her.
Yeah.
So I had to rewatch that to kind of get to figure out really what they were doing there. I'm like, oh, I see. Because we noticed Kate Walsh immediately, but I don't know about you. I didn't notice the other ones right off the bat.
No, it took me a second. I mean, when we watched the finale on the couch here this past weekend. This was not the first time I saw it, so that's why I was able to point them out easier because
you're like, oh, now I know who these random kids are.
Now I remember who these people are. Okay, well, we go from that to Only Murders in the Building, episode 4, The Stuntman.
Just keep giving me more Only Murders. Spectacular. Give me 14 more. We got to see Paul Rudd.
I loved how they worked Paul Rudd back in, because we had heard at the end of last season that everybody on the show, this is the meta part, loved Paul Rudd, loved him being part of the production, and really wanted to bring him in, but his character died last season.
Yeah.
And the way they brought him in was he's his stuntman. and
like Irish, right?
Got this just over exaggerated Irish accent.
Magically delicious.
It was really excellent. I loved every moment of it.
Well, we were really surprised when we first saw him on screen. Like I figured, I was like, okay, they're gonna work Paul Rudd in with like flashbacks, maybe.
Yeah.
Like similar to what they're doing with Saz and Jane Lynch. And basically, there's a club for stunt doubles. So Charles goes, yes, and to try to get more information about people that knew Saz, and then we see Paul Rudd, and we're like, what? And he seemed a little nutty anyway. That like looking out for invisible rats. I don't know what that little shtick. I almost wonder if Paul Rudd was ad-libbing for that part.
Or is there something about that that's going to come back?
Yeah,
you never know with this show.
A lot of this stuff is connected. I kind of liked the stuntman or like funeral type services that they had.
Yeah.
What else let's see. Mabel, and her squad. She's squatting in the one apartment.
Yes.
No one likes her. We find out why all those people are kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because the guy that's living in the building,
Dudenoff,
that where she's now like squatting, is basically letting them stay at the Arconian for $200 for rent.
So he's rented out all the apartments on. It was unclear whether it was that side of the building or just that floor that they're on.
Side or maybe the floor.
And he's letting them all stay for like $200 a month, which
is
in
New York City,
ridiculous. And he sends them ham, and they just have to keep the secret.
Would you eat bathtub ham?
Oh, a ham from like Portugal that they're eating off of?
Yeah.
It's funny. It's weird. Okay.
That's going to segue into our next show perfectly.
Two Portuguese hams is not a lot of Portuguese hams.
Man, it's the one from Frasier, Spain.
But it's weird that it's coming up twice in one episode.
Yes.
Yes, I would absolutely have a bite of that hanging in the
I'm not a big fan of cured ham. When we went to Spain and Portugal, I missed turkey so much. I guess my little dumb brain was like, why can't I get a turkey sandwich? I didn't realize that's like an American thing. I thought turkeys were like everywhere.
Nope. They're native to the United States of America.
And it wasn't like, it was all that cured ham, which is so sickeningly salty.
Wow.
I couldn't stand it.
Oh,
you loved it when we were there.
Oh, it was delicious. Oh my gosh, it was.
No, I did like it when we switched sandwiches. We went to this like bar called I think it was like called Mario's. The best meal I remember of that trip, and I feel like we were still in Spain. And you had ordered just the pork sandwich. I had ordered the ham sandwich thinking it was a ham sandwich. No, it's not. It's a cured ham. So we switched sandwiches, and that pork sandwich is the best sandwich I probably ever had in my entire life.
And that cured ham sandwich was the best sandwich I've ever had.
That bar was filthy. You know that's flavoring. It was perfect.
I'd go back.
A bar called Mario's in Spain with cured ham sandwiches and pork sandwiches. So, yeah, I feel like now's the perfect time because we had the perfect segue into it. So, anything else you want to say about Only Murders?
No, nothing.
It goes on. Still going with Scott Bakula?
Yep. I have been given no reason not to believe it's Scott Bakula.
All right. So, we knew it was coming soon. We did not realize that it was already out. And we're sitting down to finally finish off the Umbrella Academy when I see on the screen, hey, Frasier reboot season 2 episodes now streaming. And I'm like, oh, Frasier was this week, not next week. Because I don't know about you, Daniel, but this month of September, where is it gone?
I mean, I don't think it's your fault that you can't figure out where September's gone because it still feels like July outside.
Yeah, if you told me that we Umbrella Academied into another timeline and I'm just in a perpetual state of summer, I would believe you. But anyway, we decided to, once again, we kicked Umbrella Academy down the can for another day, and we watched the first 2 episodes of the Frasier reboot, season 2. Had to get into Paramount Plus for the first time in a while. Daniel's favorite
for
app.
an app that has so much of the content that I really love and enjoy with all the Star Trek. God, that app.
You know what it is for you? I don't think I'm gonna. It's a what's it? Curia. What is it? What is it called? The test and Star
Kobayashi Maru.
Kobayashi Maru for you to get in to watch anything in there. There's your Star
It is
Trek.
a no-win scenario to get in there. Yes.
Like, you want to watch something? Good luck. Anyway, once we finally crack the code,
Just talk about it, please.
we get into Frasier. I think Frasier's funny. Like, I feel like the humor is. Why are you still laughing? Do I need to give you another dirty soda? Are you too
I'm going to have another drink of this Oreo Coke now just because you just bridged Paramount Plus with the Kobayashi Maru.
I thought
Cheers.
A great transition. I thought the humor.
Oh, this is awful. Ugh.
It's just not good. It's just not good. It's still in my mouth. I don't need to take another.
Do you know
sip.
how there's
it's still there?
Do you know how there's like a certain population of the country that for them a Hershey's bar tastes like vomit?
Yeah.
Okay. This has got a vomity quality to it.
Says the man that loves Hershey bars, plain ones. I don't think
I'm not one of those people.
I think it tastes like wax, but
I'm just saying this has got a vomity quality to it.
Yes, it tastes like burped up Oreos.
Yeah, it's regurgitated. A regurgitated taste. That's what this got to it. Okay, continue with Frasier.
Speaking of regurgitated jokes and everything, but no. We're just on fire tonight. Give me another dirty soda stat. Not this crap. I thought the humor was a little bit more, when I say smarter, I mean more like kind of some Frasier jokes from the OG series. Like I felt like the first season of the Frasier reboot started off, and while Kelsey Grammer felt like Frasier, some of the jokes felt a little, not that there's anything wrong with it, but felt a little Big Bang Theory-ish to me. This one brought me back to some of that core Frasier humor, like where Alan's character is saying that like he had a theory that was going to go against the stages of grief, but it never went through, and then he starts explaining the literal stages of grief that he went through to combat that. That was a classic Frasier moment.
I think the difference is like difference between Big Bang Theory series where it was set up joke.
Yeah.
This was more like set up. And then the joke came, but the joke wasn't like this, it wasn't just a punchline. It was like this whole thing, and like it was a bit, and it goes on for a little bit, and it gets funnier. And yes, they got it back to a little bit more of that comedy this season.
They had Ham Day, which is a holiday between Frasier and Alan, and that's where we get our cured ham.
Mm-hmm. Again, I'd love a cured ham. Get me one.
What do you think of David? I feel like David's annoying me less than he did.
Yeah, he seems a little bit more tolerable.
He's a little less Sheldon-y, and I feel like they're starting to maybe make him out to his own character. We finally got a Daphne reference. I don't think they named Daphne last season.
I don't recall if they did.
Because it was somehow it's Valentine's Day, and they're like, and he's like, I got a card from a secret admirer, and they're all like, yeah, that was Daphne. I want them to address Frasier's like crush on, not Frasier, Frederick's crush on Daphne, and be like, hey, remember when you used to have the hots for my mom? Because it was like a running bit. Like, even when Niles and Daphne finally got together, Niles was like, hey, Freddie, I got the girl. It was just always weird. I think the main thing, while you're still over there laughing and trying to drink that pop, that we got to get past, I just think the show, it's never going to hit the same as the OG because it's missing Niles. David Hyde Pierce was such a major part of that cast. You can bring back all the other cast members that are still living. Rest in peace, John Mahoney. But Niles, for me, I feel like Niles was the main character of Frasier. Fight me. I really think he was.
No argument for me.
Like, Niles and Daphne had the main love story. It was like, while it was called Frasier, it was very much the Niles show. And maybe if it gets on and goes on long enough, they can throw some money at him. It's never going to hit the same without Niles.
No, totally agree. I don't even know if it'll hit the same with Niles. I think the trio really is what made Frasier for me.
You can't have Martin.
And we can't get Martin
sadly.
back. And they paid very good tribute to that character last season. But yeah, it's without Niles, it's really difficult. And they've tried as they might to replace him and his presence with different characters. But they just haven't quite got that magic right yet. Although I will say, I think the 2 episodes, you noted that by the end of the season 1, it felt more like they kind of felt
Yes.
a groove. And it was nice to see that they picked back up in that groove,
that
it feels
groove.
like.
Absolutely.
I feel like it's no original Frasier.
No.
But they found a little bit more footing with where they're going with
those tossed salad and scrambled eggs. They're calling again. Looking forward to seeing Roz and Bulldog, too, on this season. We're going to see Roz again. Oh, should we talk about Patricia Heaton before we go to the next subject?
Oh, that's right.
Patricia Heaton, also known as Deborah Barone, and Frankie Heck. Now she's a bartender?
I have to try it. Say it one more time. Patricia Heaton.
Patricia Heaton. Rocking the gray hair.
Yeah.
She kind of reminds me of, in this character, if Frankie Heck's attitude met Deborah Barone's looks. Because they always kind of downplayed.
Yeah.
Because Patricia Heaton is a very beautiful woman. And they always kind of downplayed it a little bit on the middle.
Yes.
That being said, who would you rather date? Deborah or Frankie?
Frankie,
hands down. I mean, you got to feel for Deborah a little bit with what she puts up with the Barones.
Yeah, but she also brings a lot on herself sometimes.
And supposedly we're getting one of Kelsey Grammer's daughter, who, speaking of connection with the middle, who played April on the middle, is supposed to show up at some point. Do we think she'll show up to date Freddie? What if she's Alice? I think we're supposed to see Roz's daughter. And I would say you could make the argument, well, Alice was a brunette in the show. Who else was a brunette when they were little and is a blonde now? Hello, me. I've seen people argue about that, Daniel. They're like, well, why would so-and-so play this? They were a brunette on the show. I'm like, one, Freddie's been played now by like
y'all
3
never
different
heard
actors.
of like hair dye?
Yeah.
Oh, well. Yeah, I think they're setting her. Do you think they're setting her up for in-game with Frasier?
I'm not going to say in-game, but definitely dating.
Okay.
Commit to commitment. I know who I want in-game as Frasier, and they have a chance to do it. Frasier and Lilith, baby. And if you go by Cheers, that future episode, apparently they're supposed to end up together anyway, so we'll see.
Well, they've got to stick to canon.
True. Although I'm pretty sure Martin played another character on Cheers at one point. John Mahoney played somebody else.
He was a cop, undercover.
You know, Frasier does like women that work at bars, though, because he liked Diane.
That's true.
She worked at a bar.
How'd that work out for him?
And I should have stuck with that tossed salad and scrambled eggs as the next segue. But speaking of musical, singing, dancing...
More singing, more voices. Before we get to Dancing with Stars, I have to call you out on something that I just forgot about, and now I got to bring it up. And I transitioned into it perfectly. I went to bed at like 10 o'clock at night last week, just randomly because I was tired, because I'm always tired, because life is exhausting and it will not end until I die.
Unless you keep drinking this pop.
Then it'll end a lot sooner. And you had me come out for some reason. I don't know what you needed. You needed something.
I needed to ask you a question about the episode.
Oh, that's right. You said, hey, come out here. I have a question for
An
you.
important question.
And I walk out, and as I'm walking down the hallway, I hear what can only be the musical episode of Season 2 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
Best episode of the season.
Blaring on the TV. You pause it when I arrive. You ask me a incredibly technical question. A technobabble Star Trek question.
I did.
That, first of all,
yeah, I did.
I have to point it out to the show. They answered it like 2 minutes afterward.
Yes,
you
but
asked
I
me.
was impatient.
Because Star Trek tries to answer its questions
They
like
really
that
do.
as best as
Unlike
possible.
Umbrella Academy, they try to actually give an explanation for what they're doing.
But more importantly, you're out here just jamming out to a Star Trek episode without me. By yourself. I'm so proud. I could not be more proud.
And I knew you were going to call me out on that. But it's a great musical episode. Didn't we buy the record?
Yeah, we have the record.
I love the soundtrack. It's kind of like my comfort. You should be proud.
I couldn't be more proud.
If someday I catch you watching like One Tree Hill by yourself, which would probably never happen, I might be so proud.
Oh boy, what a day that would be!
Emily in Paris by yourself.
I'm gonna actually. I'll say another thing.
Which of my shows would you watch by yourself?
If you ever catch me on this couch by myself watching One Tree Hill, come over and check and see if I had a stroke.
Or maybe take it back to Umbrella Academy and somebody like took your face off and I've got an intruder in my house.
Yeah.
Wait for the cleanse to happen.
Dancing with the Stars.
We had the premiere. no one got sent home, but tonight's episode is a double elimination. So we're going to lose 2 people. I thought the premiere was fantastic, but let's call it out what it is. We did a prediction on the last episode who we thought would be the leading couple on night 1, and I was right. It was Chandler and Brandon. I think she is the best technical dancer on this season so far, so I was correct in that. You were close, though.
I was close.
I
was closer than you thought I was going to be.
Yeah. You said it was going to be Steven. Now, I'm glad you were closer because Steven is your friend Steve. Steve. He's my favorite. I love him. He made the Olympics so enjoyable, but I was really worried that he might be a little awkward at dancing. I think they underscored him personally.
I agree.
Yeah, he had some
agree.
foot issues with pointing his toes and stuff, some very technical things that you can you can always tell the people that are better. I feel like the judges are harder on them, but he came out and knocked it out of the park. But I was right on that prediction that Chandler was the best. I thought her dance was great. She danced to Hot to Go. Excellent song. We also have that record.
Correct.
And
let's name all our records.
Yeah, let's name all our records. How many Taylor Swifts? A lot. So my favorite, though, even though I liked Stevens, my personal favorite of the day, and I think they were in second place on the leaderboard, was Dwight and Daniela. They came out, danced to This Is How We Do It, and I don't know if I don't think we're going to end up having the Amon Daniela magic where she wins with another NBA person, but it was great to watch, entertaining, checked all the boxes, and he moved really well. And once again, Danny took the height difference and she made something work with the choreography that I feel like you and I were both very impressed.
Yeah, it was impressive. And let's not forget, her and Iman started from a really low place.
They got forced their first week.
Yeah, they've already started from a much higher spot. Now, I think...
He is 5 inches taller than Iman?
He's taller than Iman, and I said from sitting on the couch that night, get him in a foxtrot and let's see what happens. Because that's going to be really hard to stay and hold that entire dance.
They did the salsa where they could do lifts, and they did that one lift where he lifted her in the air and she kind of deadpan looked at the camera because she's I think 5'2" or 5'3". So I don't want the judges. It's going to make me really mad if they just criticize their frame the whole time because that's literally... They can't help it.
Yeah, but at the same time,
so much taller than her.
I agree with you, but if it's a foxtrot, it's a foxtrot.
Yeah,
you got to do a foxtrot.
So he might just have to dance with his knees bent the whole time. But that was my surprise of the night. Do you have a surprise of the night? Somebody that really Dwight and Danny coming out.
Steven,
so good
I thought I was taking a much bigger risk than I ended up taking. I thought he would come out and seem a little bit more stiff or awkward. Wooden or awkward than he did, and he came out. I'm going to tell you right now, he could win the thing because he's got the thing I did not expect for him. I knew he was going to be athletic, and I thought there was a reasonable chance that he'd be able to come out and move pretty well. But he's got personality and the ability to show emotion.
Yes.
Way more than I anticipated.
And a lot of the girl gymnasts that have done the show, save for Lori, who was really good at the facials, and even Shawn Johnson, who did win Dancing with the Stars, it took her a little bit to warm up. That's been one of the things they've struggled with, to put in kind of the acting component.
Right.
And a lot of the athletes, and he came out once again when the glasses come out. The beast is unleashed, and I know tonight's dance they're going to do a paso to the Superman theme because, all the comparisons to Superman, and people are like, oh, they're really leaning into that hard, and I'm like, lean into it. And what's another memorable dance for you, would you say? The Bachelorette was good. Bachelor was good.
Both Bachelorette and Bachelor were good, yes. I agree.
I'm going to say while he only moved 2 times on the floor, I absolutely voted for Reginald Val Johnson because he's Carl Winslow. He's America's dad. He was so precious. And at the end, he was like, I did it. And I just wanted to cry. And this honestly makes me want them to do a golden season of Dancing with the Stars because he's so precious. And it's going to literally break my heart when he gets voted off. I don't think he's going to be one of the ones that gets eliminated because I think a lot of people are like me and are like, we love him. We love his TikToks. I at least want him to stay another week. So that leads me to our next prediction. We won't talk about Dancing with the Stars all night, but we will both give our predictions. Who do you think the 2 contestants eliminated are going to be? If you don't remember your names, you can be like that tall girl that dances with Gleb. Her name is Brooks.
I think for sure Julia Roberts' brother.
Eric Roberts.
Eric Roberts, he's gone.
I know, it's
Gosh.
hard. I don't really want anyone to leave, though. I really like this whole cast.
I think Reginald VelJohnson's gone.
See, I disagree.
I think the other cast is so good. It would only take the fan vote to save them. And I don't know.
Underestimate millennials.
And
that
I
love
don't
Carl
know how
Winslow.
much fan vote he's going to have pushing 30 years past when he was famous.
A lot of people that didn't even remember him in Family Matters are like loving it. A lot of the youths are loving
I might
him
be
on
wrong.
TikTok.
That's my prediction.
Now, that being said, it's going to combine last week's votes and tonight's votes and then both scores. So the judges, I thought, were very nice. I do think it's a little weird that he scored better than Eric, who did move more than him. But again, treasure. He's a treasure. So if they really lowball him with some scores or give him probably what they probably should have given him last week, that could affect it. But I kind of worry for Tori Spelling. I don't think she's going to get gone, but I wonder how much of the 90210 fan base is tuning in and watching this show. A lot of people know Tori from some of her reality shows. She is one of those like chaotic energy personalities that I think when you like get to see her on TV or listen to her, a lot of people kind of gravitate towards that. Like she's funny and she kind of has that awkward energy too. But I just wonder like how like will she have the scores? Will she get enough votes? That being said, I'm going with Eric Roberts, and I think maybe do enough people know Brooks and Gleb as much as they want to shove their showmance in my face and how like I guess hot they both are. I don't know. I'm going to go with Eric Roberts and Brooks and Gleb. It was like the shocking one.
I think her dancing will get her out of it.
She didn't look great last week.
No, she didn't. But I mean, come
better.
on.
Maybe
did she look worse than?
No.
Reginald VelJohnson did not move.
He moved like twice, but he's precious.
I'm not saying he's not.
I need him to at least make it another week.
I'm not saying he's not, but he basically just walked out there, stood, and she danced around him.
And he had great facials, and we love him.
All right. Well, folks, I think that about does it for this episode of the podcast. I really appreciate everybody tuning in. To address a couple of shows we've been talking about and haven't got back to in a while, we are still working our way through New Girl Season 6, but
James Wonder.
We've had more shows to watch recently, so we haven't gotten as much of that through. Plus, we're still just slogging through Jess and Robbie. And I forgot how much I dislike that.
They're just so cringe. And you did not watch, speaking of cringe, no Rings of Power this week.
I wasn't able to get myself through an episode of Rings of Power. I promise I'll get back to it. I'll Clockwork Orange my eyes open to make sure that I get at least one episode through. I really want to get to the Tom Bombadil episode. Like I really do. I think that's like the 4th episode. How
many episodes are you behind?
I think this week. I think the 6th episode is coming out. So I'm kind of behind.
Nasty Oreo Coke Zero and go get some TV watching in, man.
No, I'm gonna go dump it in the sink actually right now. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of We Watch TV, a podcast about the TV shows we watch. You can find more from Hope and Daniel on Instagram at We Watch TV Podcast. Drop us a line if you like the show, have a question, or a recommendation. You can find Hope on Twitter at Lil Runner and Daniel on Twitter at The Real Hobo Dan. Music for today's podcast was provided by Your Tunes from Pixabay. Artwork was created using the AI program Midjourney with prompts written by Daniel.